Welcome back to the deep dive. Today,
Yeah.
we're tackling a real-life political thriller
Yeah.
unfolding in Malaysia.
This is a good one.
Remember former Prime Minister Najib Razak?
Oh, of course.
Convicted in that huge SRC International scandal.
Right.
Serving time.
Uh-huh.
Well, things just got a lot more complicated.
Yeah, like someone hit rewind on the whole drama.
Exactly.
It's crazy.
We've got a stack of sources here.
Mm-hmm.
Articles from the Star.
Oh, wow.
Malaysia Kini.
Uh-huh.
Even statements straight from the Attorney General's chambers.
No kidding.
All because Najib is trying to get out of prison
Okay.
and serve the rest of his sentence under house arrest.
House arrest.
But get this.
What?
The claim is he's got a secret royal addendum
A royal addendum.
from the former king on his side.
Now, you might be thinking, hold on, can a royal note really overrule a court decision?
Well, yeah, that's the question.
That's the million-dollar question we're
Right.
diving into.
Yeah, we'll unpack what this alleged document is.
If it even exists,
Right.
and what it could mean for the current government, the legal system, and frankly for the future of Malaysian politics.
Okay, so for anyone just tuning in,
Right.
Najib Razak was convicted
Yeah.
in a pretty massive corruption case a few years back.
Right.
The SRC International case involved millions of dollars,
Millions.
and he ended up with a reduced 6-year prison sentence.
Okay.
But now,
Yeah.
his son, Yazar, pops up,
Okay.
claiming there's this royal addendum
Interesting.
issued by the former king, supposedly granting Najib house arrest.
And he's not just whispering this in the corner.
Oh, no.
Nizar's gone public, practically daring the authorities to deny it.
Wow.
He's saying, if this document isn't real, why haven't you filed a police report for forgery?
Oh, my.
Talk about throwing down the gauntlet.
It's like a scene straight out of House of Cards.
Exactly. And Najib isn't just sitting back and watching this play out. He's filed a lawsuit.
A lawsuit?
Demanding a court order to force the government to produce this supposed addendum.
Really?
And here's the kicker.
Okay.
To actually enforce it.
So he's basically saying,
Yeah.
Your Honor, the king said I get to go home, case closed.
That's the gist of it, yes.
Wow.
But naturally, the Attorney General's chambers, UGC, had something to say about this.
Yeah, they didn't just stay quiet. They issued a statement laying down the law on how pardon applications are supposed to work.
Oh, okay.
Basically, they're saying any request for house arrest, royal addendum or not, has to go through the Pardons Board.
Right. The Pardons Board.
And guess who chairs that board?
Who?
The current king.
Oh, interesting.
What's interesting here is that the AGC is not just reiterating the rules, they're emphasizing the current king's authority in the process.
I see.
It's subtle.
Yeah.
But it suggests they might be worried about this alleged addendum, undermining the current king's power and the legitimacy of the established pardon process. Almost like they're saying, hey, let's not forget who's really in charge here.
Ooh, good catch.
It's like a power play within a power play.
Right.
So we've got Najib trying to pull a legal fast one. His son stirring the pot in the media.
Yeah.
And the AGC subtly reminding everyone that the current king has the final say.
Okay.
What does this all mean for the unity government?
Right.
They're already walking a tightrope, trying to maintain stability.
Well, remember those massive Bersia rallies a few years back?
Yeah, vaguely.
They played a big role in shaking up the political landscape.
Right.
Now imagine a rally specifically for Najib, organized by his loyal supporters in Umno and PAS. That's exactly what's planned for January 6th.
Oh, wow.
The same day as Najib's court hearing.
Talk about adding fuel to the fire.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a huge concern for the unity government. They're facing a real dilemma. If they allow Najib another appeal, especially based on this questionable royal addendum, they risk looking weak.
Yeah.
Like they're bending to pressure from powerful figures. But if they block it, they risk angering Najib's supporters.
Right.
And potentially sparking more unrest.
Yeah. It's a lose-lose situation.
It is.
And we haven't even touched on the public's perception of all this.
Oh, that's a good point.
It's one thing to have legal arguments.
Right.
But how will everyday Malaysians react to this whole royal addendum situation.
That's a great point.
Right.
Public opinion can be a powerful force, especially in a country with such a vibrant and active citizenry.
Right.
This whole situation could easily snowball into a massive public debate about justice, fairness, and the role of the monarchy in the modern Malaysian state.
So I'm starting to see why this is more than just a legal case.
It is, yeah.
This is about the very fabric of Malaysian society.
Right.
And the delicate balance of power between the monarchy, the courts, and the people.
It is.
Right.
And it raises some fascinating questions about the nature of justice and how it's perceived and applied in a system where tradition and modernity constantly intersect.
Right.
But before we go there, let's talk a bit more about the second bite at the cherry aspect of this case.
You're right. We need to unpack that more.
Yeah.
It's clear this isn't just some random appeal.
No, no.
This royal addendum adds a whole other dimension to the situation.
It does.
Right.
What we're essentially seeing is a potential clash
Okay.
between legal procedure and royal prerogative.
Okay, hold on. Break that down for me.
Okay.
Royal prerogative. What exactly does that mean in the Malaysian context?
Right.
I get that it's about the king's power, but how far does that power actually extend?
Well, you're right.
Yeah.
It does refer to the special powers and privileges of the king. Think of it as a set of unique rights and authorities that aren't explicitly spelled out in the Constitution, but have been recognized through custom and practice throughout Malaysia's history.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So it's like these unwritten rules that everyone understands and respects.
Exactly.
And historically, royal prerogative has played a role in things like pardon decisions and the appointment of key government officials.
Right.
It's a way of acknowledging the king's traditional role as a guardian of the nation's well-being.
Exactly.
So in this case, Najib's team is arguing that this royal addendum falls under the umbrella of royal prerogative, essentially a royal decree that supersedes the court's decision.
That's the argument they're making, yes.
Wow.
But that's where things get really sticky.
Okay.
Because now we're talking about a potential conflict between the king's authority and the rule of law.
Wow, that's a huge can of worms.
It is.
And it makes this whole thing way more than just a legal battle for Najib to get out of prison.
It absolutely does.
This case is a microcosm of some of the biggest challenges facing Malaysian society today. It touches on issues of accountability, transparency, and the balance of power within the government.
Right.
It's about who holds the ultimate authority and how that authority is exercised.
Exactly.
It would set a fascinating precedent, to say the least.
Yeah.
Imagine a scenario where royal decrees could potentially overrule court decisions. In any case, it would certainly raise questions about the separation of powers, the independence of the judiciary, and the very foundation of Malaysia's legal framework.
It would be a huge shift.
Right. It's like suddenly we're not just dealing with laws written down in books.
Right.
We have to consider these unwritten, almost mystical powers of the monarchy.
It's interesting.
It feels a bit like we've stepped back in time a few centuries.
It does have that feel, doesn't it?
Right.
And that's part of what makes this situation so intriguing.
Yeah.
Malaysia is this modern nation, a global player in many ways.
Right.
But it's also a country deeply rooted in tradition.
Yeah.
Where respect for the monarchy is woven into the fabric of society.
Right.
This case really highlights that tension, that push and pull between the old and the new.
It's like those old stories about kings and queens who could just say, off with their head.
Yeah.
And that was it, the law.
Exactly.
But we're not living in a fairy tale, are we?
No.
There have to be limits to royal prerogative.
There have to be, yes. But defining those limits is where things get tricky.
Okay.
There's no handy-dandy rule book that says, here's what the king can do and here's what he can't. It's all based on precedent, on how these powers have been interpreted and applied in the past.
Okay, so let's play devil's advocate for a moment.
Okay.
Let's say this royal addendum is legitimate.
Right.
And the court does acknowledge it. Couldn't someone argue that it's actually a good thing? A sign that the monarchy is still relevant in modern Malaysia.
Okay.
That they can act as a check on the power of the government.
Yeah.
A protector of the people.
That's certainly an argument you'll hear from Najib's supporters.
Right.
And it's a perspective worth considering.
Okay.
There is a sentiment among some Malaysians that the monarchy represents a traditional form of justice.
Okay.
A way of ensuring fairness and compassion in a system that can sometimes feel impersonal and bureaucratic.
So it's almost like they see the Queen as this wise, benevolent figure who can step in when the legal system fails to deliver true justice.
Right.
A kind of ultimate appeals court, but with a heart.
That's a very poetic way of putting it.
Right.
And I think it captures the essence of that sentiment. Of course, it's important to remember that this is just one perspective.
Right.
There are plenty of Malaysians who would vehemently disagree with this view, who would argue that giving the monarchy this much power undermines the principles of democracy and the rule of law.
Right. Because on the flip side, you could say, this opens the door to all sorts of abuses.
Right.
What's to stop the king from intervening in any case he wants, based on personal whims or political pressure?
Right.
It sets a dangerous precedent.
It absolutely does.
And that's why this case has generated so much debate and anxiety. It's not just about Najib and his freedom.
No.
It's about the fundamental principles that underpin Malaysian society.
Exactly.
The balance between tradition and modernity, between royal authority and democratic processes.
It is a complex situation.
And speaking of high stakes,
Yeah.
what about the planned rally on January 6th?
Right.
We talked about the potential for unrest, but what are people actually saying about it?
Well,
Is there a real sense of danger, or is it just political posturing?
It hard to say for sure, but the fact that both Umno and PAS are backing this rally is significant.
Right.
These are powerful political forces in Malaysia, and they still command a lot of support, especially among the Malay majority.
Right.
Their involvement definitely raises the temperature
Okay.
and adds to the sense of uncertainty.
Right, because now it's not just a legal battle. It's a potential showdown between the government and a significant portion of the population.
Right.
And how does that play out in a country that's only recently achieved a semblance of political stability after years of turmoil? It's a recipe for disaster, isn't it?
It has the potential to be very disruptive, that's for sure.
Right.
And the government knows it. They're in a difficult position.
Yeah.
They need to be seen as respecting the right to peaceful assembly.
Okay.
But they also have a responsibility to prevent any escalation of violence or unrest.
It's like they're walking a tightrope across a very deep chasm.
That's a good analogy.
One wrong step and everything could come crashing down.
Right.
Right.
And it's made even more precarious by the fact that the rally is planned for the same day as Najib's court hearing.
Right.
The symbolism of that is impossible to ignore.
Talk about a pressure cooker. So how do you see this playing out? What are the likely scenarios here?
Well, it's difficult to predict with certainty, but let's consider a few possibilities. One scenario is that the court rejects Najib's appeal outright, basically saying this royal addendum holds no legal weight.
Right.
In that case, the rally might become a focal point. For anger and frustration among Najib's supporters, there's a risk of things turning violent.
Yeah.
Especially if the government is perceived as being heavy-handed in its response.
Okay, that's scenario one, not good.
Right.
What else could happen?
Another possibility is that the court accepts the royal addendum as legitimate, but still rules against Najib, perhaps arguing that it doesn't actually grant him house arrest. Or that it's been superseded by subsequent legal developments. In this scenario, the rally might be less volatile.
Right.
But there would still be a sense of disappointment and resentment.
Right, because even if they acknowledge the king's power, it's still a loss for Najib in the end.
Exactly.
Right.
And then there's the wild card scenario, the one that everyone's whispering about, but no one wants to say out loud. What if the court rules in Najib's favor? What if they say, yes, this royal addendum is valid, and yes, it does grant Najib house arrest?
Whoa. Now we're talking about a whole different ballgame.
Right.
That would be a seismic shift, wouldn't it?
It would be a monumental decision. One that would have far-reaching consequences for Malaysia's legal and political landscape.
Wow.
It would send shockwaves through the country and would likely be met with a mixture of jubilation from Najib's supporters and outrage from his opponents.
I can already imagine the headlines. King Trump's court. Najib goes free.
Exactly. Yeah. It would be a media frenzy, and it would dominate political discourse.
Wow.
For months, if not years to come.
So it seems like no matter what happens, Malaysia is in for a bumpy ride.
It's definitely a pivotal moment.
Yeah.
One that will test the resilience of its institutions and the unity of its people.
And what about the unity government?
Right.
How will they navigate this minefield?
Yeah, it's tough.
They're already facing criticism from all sides. Accused of being too weak, too indecisive.
Right.
This could be the straw that breaks the camel's back.
It's a real test of their leadership.
Yeah.
And their ability to maintain stability in the face of intense pressure.
Right.
They need to find a way to uphold the rule of law while also respecting these sensitivities surrounding the monarchy and addressing the legitimate concerns of Najib's supporters.
Right.
It's a tall order.
Yeah.
And the world is watching to see how they handle it.
Yeah, it's almost like the whole country is holding its breath, waiting for the other shoe to drop.
I know, right?
This whole situation feels like a powder keg just waiting for a spark.
It's definitely a tense moment in Malaysian history.
And it's not just about the legal and political implications.
Yeah.
It's about the emotional undercurrents. The deep-seated beliefs and anxieties that are bubbling to the surface.
Exactly.
Right? We've talked a lot about the legal arguments, the political maneuvering, the potential for unrest. But what about the human side of this story?
Oh, that's a good point.
What about Najib himself?
Right.
His family?
Yeah.
His supporters?
Yeah. What are they going through right now?
Yeah.
It's easy to get caught up in the abstract concepts and the high-stakes drama. But we can't forget that there are real people at the heart of this.
Yeah, for Najib, this is about more than just his freedom.
Exactly.
It's about his legacy, his reputation.
It's his place in history.
Right. Imagine the weight of that.
I know.
Knowing that your every move is being scrutinized.
All right, yeah.
Your every word dissected, your entire life story.
Yeah.
Re-examined under a microscope.
It must be incredibly isolating.
And what about his family?
Right, his family.
They've stood by him through all of this.
Yeah.
Even when the evidence against him seemed overwhelming.
Yeah.
They must be feeling a mix of hope and anxiety.
Clinging to this royal addendum
Yeah.
as their last chance for a happy ending.
Absolutely.
And then there are his supporters.
Yeah. His supporters.
The people who believe in his innocence, who see him as a victim of political persecution. They've invested so much emotional energy in defending him, rallying behind him, hoping for his return to power.
Yeah, for them, this case is about more than just one man.
Right.
It's about their own sense of identity, their belief in a certain vision of Malaysia.
It's almost like a Shakespearean tragedy, isn't it?
It really is, yeah.
You have these larger-than-life figures, these clashing ideologies, these profound questions about justice and power, and it's all playing out on a grand stage.
It is.
With the whole world watching.
It's a story that has it all.
Yeah.
Drama, intrigue, betrayal, redemption.
And it's a story that's still unfolding.
It is. We don't know what the final act will be.
But one thing is for sure, it will have a profound impact on Malaysia's future.
And what about the impact on ordinary Malaysians?
Oh, good question.
The folks who aren't necessarily die-hard Najib supporters or fervent critics of the government.
Right.
How are they making sense of all this?
Well, from what I've observed, there's a sense of weariness, a feeling that they've seen this all before. Malaysians have witnessed their fair share of political scandals and upheavals over the years. There's a longing for stability, for a government that can focus on the issues that matter to them. The economy, education, healthcare. This whole Najib saga feels like a distraction, a sideshow that's taking attention away from the real challenges facing the country.
So they're basically saying, enough already with the drama. Let's move on and get things done.
That's the sentiment I'm picking up, yes.
There's a sense that Malaysia is at a crossroads, and the choices made in the coming weeks and months will determine its direction for years to come.
Absolutely.
Will it be a country where the rule of law prevails, where institutions are strong and accountable, or will it slip back into a pattern of political patronage and elite capture?
It's a big question.
It is a big question.
A question that goes beyond Najib and his legal woes.
Right.
It's about the kind of society Malaysians want to live in, the values they want to uphold, the future they want to build for their children.
Exactly.
And I think that's what makes this whole situation so fascinating, so compelling.
It's not just a story about one man or one legal case.
Right.
It's a story about a nation grappling with its identity.
Exactly.
Trying to find its place in a rapidly changing world.
It is, yeah.
It's a story that we'll continue to follow closely.
Of course.
Here on The Deep Dive.
And as always, we encourage our listeners to stay informed,
to
engage in thoughtful discussion, and to make their voices heard.
Right.
Because ultimately, the future of Malaysia is in the hands of its people.
This deep dive has been quite a ride.
It has.
We've uncovered secret documents, explored the limits of royal power, and witnessed a nation on the brink of a political earthquake.
We've seen how a single legal case can become a lightning rod for deeper societal anxieties, revealing the fault lines and the strengths within Malaysian society.
It's a story that's far from over.
It is.
And we'll be here to guide you through every twist and turn.
Absolutely.
What do you think will happen next?
Yeah, what do you think?
Let us know.
Yeah, let us know.
And join us next time for another deep dive.
See you next time.